Our final speaker today is Chriselle Hickerton, who will explore a concept many of us will have come across in the media and also, it was mentioned a bit earlier today, called direct-to-consumer testing. Chriselle works at the Murdoch as a research assistant and genetic counsellor. Her work has explored the lived experience and impact of genetic conditions and genetic testing on families. For the last 3 years, Chriselle has worked on the GeneOz study, exploring the Australian public's awareness and use of online DNA testing. More recently, she joined the Australian Genomics Health Alliance, investigating the needs of health professionals in the genomics era. Please make Chriselle welcome.
Hi everyone, thanks for inviting me to speak today. So I'm talking about something a bit different to what's been talked about today because it's genomics outside of the medical clinic mainly. So this is just a description of what I'll be covering today, but we're talking about personal genomic testing. So I guess what you've heard is that genomics has rapidly expanded over the last many years, and one of those is people being able to access their genetic information without going to a genetics clinic. And so this is called, it can be called online DNA testing, direct-to-consumer testing, at-home testing, but it's directly marketed to people through the internet, basically. And you can find out lots of different information. So carrier testing for serious health conditions, non-serious health conditions, pharmacogenomics, so finding out how you metabolize medication, for nutrition and wellness, and also for ancestry, fitness, and physical traits as well, and lots of other things. So in the early days as 23andMe, you've probably heard about them, I'd say. They were sort of one of the pioneers in America. They were offering health information and ancestry information, and then the FDA shut down their sort of the health information side of it, so they were only offering ancestry information, and then they changed their processes and now they do offer health information again, but depending on where you live. So Australians can't necessarily access that information. So kind of started with 23andMe and then the market kind of exploded. This is a snapshot from a couple of years ago. Some of these companies still exist and some of them don't anymore. So yeah, a lot of them come and go. And you can, there's lots of other ones. There's even testing to find out if your child can play soccer, what kind of wine would be good to drink according to your DNA, and even what type of partner would be good for you. So I think if you search for it, you'll probably find something out there. Whether it's good testing or not is another issue. This is just an example of one of the companies. This is a snapshot from a couple of years ago, EasyDNA, and it just shows sort of the range of things that they were testing for. And then another thing that developed over the last few years is a portal called Helix overseas, and basically it was a one-stop shop. So you sent off, so basically you buy the test, they give you a DNA kit, they send it to you, usually swab or saliva, and then you send it back and they analyse it. And this place, you pay for your DNA for the kit and for a particular test, so it could be ancestry, and then you can pay later on to get another test done on your DNA, like the nutrition and wellness. So the space is continually evolving, and that's just what was on their website. So there's different ways of accessing testing, and it has actually evolved over time. So some companies provide the results directly to the consumer. So particularly 23andMe, you can order your DNA kit, send it off, and you get your results emailed to you. Some companies, especially some that are based in Australia, require that a health practitioner order the test, but it doesn't have to be a genetic specialist or GP. It can also be a naturopath, nutritionist, dietitian, and also some of these kits are sold in pharmacies in Australia as well. But I guess the key thing is that they're still marketed directly at the consumer online. The type of testing that's done, it's not diagnostic, so it's different to clinical testing. And it's usually based on genome-wide association studies. So it's looking at the association between common variants, SNPs. And basically it's looking at traits, so it can look at lots of different things: hair colour, type, height, the ancestry, and also multifactorial conditions such as obesity, ageing, diabetes, response to medication, as mentioned. So what happens is they compare your DNA to their database, which is a population of people, and it might not be a population that you're from. So that's sort of a key thing to remember. And the biggest thing is just working out what that variant means compared to everyone else that they're comparing you to. So the range of tests, they really range. They can be quite competitive and cheap or quite expensive. And as you can see from the top there, Ancestry is, well, it's one of the most popular online DNA tests, and it's often on special. So it's often on special Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, Black Friday, so in America. And so you can buy these kits for your family members. And I guess the thing that people don't or wouldn't necessarily think about is what finding out their genetic information might mean for other people in their family. So there might be, that has been family secrets that have been uncovered for this type of testing as well. The other thing is third-party interpretation sites. So for Ancestry, there's a site called GebMatch where you can get more matches with potential relatives. But there's also a site called Promethease where you can upload your raw data from your Ancestry test and you can get a lot of health information. So it generates a report that's about 40 to 50 pages long. And there's no one else involved in that. So it's sent directly to you and you're left to sort of work out what all of that information means. So in terms of the benefits and concerns, you know, people really like knowing their genetic information and they want it. Many people do. It's really convenient and accessible. It's quite competitive in the price. It's a commercial test. People feel really empowered by getting this information, especially if people have been chronically unwell and they're looking for answers. It's been one of the spaces that people have used this testing. An ability, I guess, a perceived ability to plan for the future if they know that there's sort of particular conditions that they may be at risk of. Some of the concerns, one of them is the lack of informed consent because it's a commercial test, especially if you're ordering it online, it's subject to terms and conditions. And I'm not sure how many people in the room read terms and conditions very often when they purchase things, but it's not something that's often done. And often what we found in our research too was that people just really wanted the test, so they didn't really want to read the terms and conditions, or they didn't agree with some of the things, but they ticked it anyway so that they could test. There's limitations to the predictive nature of these tests as well. So it actually has quite poor predictive ability, and sometimes it's hard to make sense and take action from some of these tests. One of the big issues is that different companies may give different results for the same DNA sample, and that's because they're using their particular, they're comparing you to their database, which would be different to another company's database. False advertising as well. One of the things is that the rhetoric around the marketing of these tests, it's very empowering and promising everything, basically, promising a lot, and that you'll find all the answers to everything, which is not necessarily the case. And there's issues with regulation and conflicting advice about what to do with the results as well. So the companies will often say, go to your general practitioner or your healthcare provider, but a lot of healthcare providers actually don't know anything about these tests and are not sure how to support people with interpretation. And you would have heard from Jane today about insurance. There was some concern about insurance, although that space is changing as well. There's some recent developments that happened earlier this year. So Bupa Health company in the health insurance company in the UK, they started offering DNA testing to their customers. And around the same time, the Nuffield Council on Bioethics launched an inquiry with the House of Commons into this type of testing because they had some concerns. So there's lots of conflicting things happening in this space all over the world, basically. In terms of whether online DNA testing has a place in clinical practice, I have an example here. It's about breast cancer, but you could apply many different conditions to this, many circumstances. But basically, so we've got, and this is a published example. So Susan, who's 32, of Chinese ancestry and in good health, decides to get one of these tests, and she purchases one. What she finds is that she has a higher risk of breast cancer than the population risk, and so she goes to visit her doctor to find out if she should increase her surveillance. So what the doctor did is take a detailed family history, and it turns out that Susan has no history of breast cancer. So the doctor needed to consider these things: whether it was a reputable laboratory, what's the accuracy of this risk estimate, is it worth Susan having more aggressive screening for cancer, breast cancer? Who will the screening be paid for? Is it Medicare or her own health insurance? And is this risk estimate applicable to her, who is of Susan, who is of Chinese ethnicity, when most of the genome-wide associations have been performed on European populations? So the doctor determined, especially with her family history, that the results actually provided insufficient data to recommend increased cancer surveillance and recommended the standard recommended care. So in summary, I guess it's just worth thinking about what are the additional benefits a consumer would gain on buying an online DNA test, and how do you make sense of all of those variants? And are you going to use a third-party interpretation site? And if you are, and if you find something that comes up in that report, you would still have to have another test in a clinic to get some confirmatory, like a diagnosis, because these tests aren't diagnostic. So generally, people, if they have health concerns, should ideally make an appointment with their GP or their genetic service or health practitioner in the first instance. I just wanted to touch on DNA odds just quickly. So that was a study that I was involved in. It was investigating Australian public's understanding of and expectations of personal genomics. We were looking at their awareness, knowledge, attitudes and motivations, and how they were engaging with testing, and their views on the ethics of personal genomic testing as well. What we found is that people in Australia were using these tests, mainly for ancestry, but also for nutrition, wellness, pharmacogenomics, and some of the serious conditions as well. And what we wanted to put together, we wanted to inform policy, but we wanted to put together a resource that was based on all the evidence. So we had, we ran focus groups, a survey, interviews, and some deliberative workshops, worked through all the issues. And from that, we developed an online resource. And that basically has like a backgrounder on DNA testing for personal genomics. And this is just some examples from the resource. So it's like an infographic part resource. And these are some of the things that we cover. So the different parts of DNA tests, different companies can come up with different results. The marketing approaches for these may vary, so just things to be aware of. And our stance always with Geneos was that we were never wanting to tell people whether to have these tests or not to have these tests, but to make sure that people were aware of the limitations so they could make decisions for themselves whether they wanted to have this testing or not. We also had a top 10 sort of questions maybe to think about when you're thinking about this type of testing. And this is a snapshot basically of the resource, and that's the link on the bottom if you wanted to have a look. And that's it. Thank you.
I just wondered how you were using...
for the people online.
Oh, was it? Okay, great. Hi, I just wanted to ask, with that resource, how are you rolling it out or how are you using it?
We are trying to use different avenues. So we had a study website. So we have all of the study information on there and the resources. But we are trying to look at different avenues. So we're thinking that one place that it could be housed is a site called Lab Tests Online, which has a lot of info about different testing and things like that. So we wanted to have it somewhere where it was accessible to people. But we're also, in my work where I'm talking with health professionals, I quite often mention the resource. So we mention it at conferences and things like that to try and share it around, but also with clinicians as much as we can to, I guess what we want is if they're having trouble or they don't understand the testing, they can have these, the resource can help clinicians have these conversations with their patients. And yeah, we're just looking at lots of different avenues. So we haven't quite got it out there everywhere yet, but open to any ideas as well of where we can put it. I think the GSMV is putting it on their website or one of their avenues for getting information out. So we've got, yeah, looking at lots of different avenues.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chriselle.